Have you ever been just sitting back and thinking of an old memory and then thinking, am I remembering that right? Was there really this thing or that thing? Well, I had a memory. I was thinking about this. I'm like, I wasn't very old. Maybe 9 years old? Yeah, about that. My family had just moved to sunny Florida. Actually, it was sunny, hot, and humid Florida. Specifically, we moved to Patrick Air Force Base, the South Housing. As I was getting to know this foreign area, I'd never been around the ocean or the sea. I remember my dad driving me to the base for something, and as we're driving along on A1A northbound, something caught my eye off to the right in the ocean. And I'm looking over there, and I'm like, what is that? It looks like this giant structure just poking up out of the ocean with no way to get to it. So I asked about it, and apparently it was a fishing pier. So as the years went on, at least 72, I was there from 72 to 76. At one point, I believe my mom took me there, and there was still a building or the remains of a building that was on the beach itself. This is real close to the hangar. It was a big Air Force, airplane hangar that was on the other side of A1A, and we're on the beach side. I remember seeing this building, dilapidated, bricks falling down. I could see into a restroom that was like partially destroyed, and it's kind of like crumbling down. The more I think about it, it was probably like a fishing shack or fishing stuff for the pier that you could see just right out there in the ocean with no way to get to it. All these years later, I started doing some digging. Let's find out what became of that. Let's see where this leads. Pier was built in the 50s, and it shows up on a lot of old black and white pictures. Here's one, various ones I found on the web. It wasn't until I got to this one, I don't know who took the picture, but seeing this picture just absolutely it was just like boing. I'm a 9-year-old kid again looking at this thing, because this is how it looked, like a T structure out in the ocean, and it just seemed too far and it seemed too big. But hey, when you're 9, everything looks big, right? So seeing that picture, just wow. Even the colors, it looks like the 70s. So I did some more digging and more digging. I found some black and white shots, aerial shots that show the pier. I'm like, oh, okay. We're getting a little closer here. There was a pier there, and it did connect to the beach. Okay, this is good to know. I had never seen it in that way. So, what happened to the part that connects the land? Apparently Hurricane Cleo in 1969. Okay, long before I got there. It came through and did a number on the Patrick Pier. And that would be the last time anybody could, get out to it. Unless you were apparently a couple of kids in around this time who decided to get a canoe and go out there with some wood and put it on the pilings and climb up. So the story goes that the MPs and the sheriff showed up and bullhorns, you better come down from there. That could have been me. I would have climbed it. Oh, man, cool stuff there. Anyways, they apparently didn't make it to the top. I don't know if anybody ever did make it up there when it was just the lonesome T. Do you know? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear the story. Let's go back to me being 10 or 11 in the South Housing area, riding my bicycle and playing Cowboys and Indians and hearing a titanic boom of an explosion. I actually didn't know it was an explosion at the time. But I believe I heard the demolition team at work, they blew it up. There were always pieces of wood falling off, as you can see from some of the photos. The boards were just barely hanging on, and of course, with additional storms coming along, these things are falling. So it was decided, let's just blow it up. And yeah, I would have liked to have been on the beach for that one. So I hear the boom, and it wasn't until later my dad's taken me to the base, or my mom, and I got so used to looking over, and there was nothing. It was gone. It was just kind of a weird feeling. You get so used to such a big thing, always right there off the ocean, but it was gone. AFTAC, which my dad worked at, I even found a shirt at a thrift store, I think, which surprised me. I remember my dad working there. It always had the cool rockets in front of it. That's probably going to be another story, so stay tuned. But back to the pier, I kept thinking, when you zoom up now to 2024, it's like, so could I find anything? Is it possible there's some remains or something? So, hey, what do? You get Google Earth Pro. It's a fantastic program. Lets you zoom in and do historical lookbacks. We're landing in 1985 and not much to see. So jumping up, here's 94. You might notice there's still no pier. 2004, and then to 2005, there's no pier showing. But, what if we studied the ocean? Yes, of course. What else do you do? The pier was in the ocean. You got to study the ocean. So here I am, pixel peeping, just zooming in and zooming in. And I found some things. Well, isn't this interesting? These dots. They're in a measured. Those have got to be the pilings from the pier. Could they still be there? I wanted to know. So, off to Satellite Beach, north of there, past the old AFTAC building, to Hangar's Beach. Hangar's gone. But I had lined it up, gotten that spot where you see across from where the hangar used to be and where the pier used to be, and it lined up with the north edge of the Hangar's beach parking lot. So I arrive. I'm all prepared to recreate this picture. I'm like, yes, this is how I remember it as a kid. So I'm going to recreate it. I'll pull up, and then I'll shoot it through the windshield, and this is what I see. Okay, not the same view. So after I get out of the car, I pull up and I'm walking up the stairs, and here comes a very slow moving elderly gentleman. And he looks kind of like, he's been around for a while. And I stopped him and I said, hey, out of curiosity, do you remember the Patrick Pier? Have you been around that long? And he stops and, well, during low tide, you can see some of it. Low tide? Well, I wasn't there for low tide. But I'm intrigued. Low tide. So I'm left alone to walk out onto this newly built boardwalk. And I look out on the ocean, still empty, the way 9-year-old Ron still remembers it. But, it wasn't empty in the sense of families. This was actually quite more popular than I thought it would be. It's known as a surfing spot, but I kept seeing just more fishermen, young families, having fun. So I did what every explorer would do. That's right. I started looking for remains. I want to find the ruins. We know they're buried in the sand next to the Egyptian pyramids. Okay, maybe not. So I start looking through the bushes, into the seagrass area. Because in my mind, I kept thinking about that building. That was the thing that I was closest to way back 10-year-old Ron. I remember the color on the bricks, or they're not really bricks. They were concrete blocks, but not the what's the word? Not horizontal. Not the longer bricks like you see today. They were the small squarish bricks. And it was painted this bluish green color, military Air Force color. Maybe it was more blue. But what are the chances? After 50 some odd years, would there be anything? I mean, wouldn't they just like bulldoze it and redo? So I looked and looked, searched, went down on the beach, walked along. Saw the other boardwalks, scanning around, and it became pretty apparent that the pier's gone. Everything's gone. Until I spotted something unusual, and it wasn't even trying to hide. So I got up closer, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what is that? It's a concrete brick, as you can see here. And as I got up closer to this thing, and I spun it around, there was that blue paint, that bluish greenish paint. And it's just like the memory, why is it just sitting here? Does somebody else, did they know that would be special? Did they know somebody would know what that really had belonged to? Hey, if you did it, if it was you, thanks a lot. It was an awesome moment. Like, this is cool. So, from there on out, all the other searches under the boardwalks, behind the boardwalks, in front of the board, everywhere. I couldn't find anything else. There's wood, but it looks like it's from broken pieces of the boardwalk. Low tide. You can see the pilings? I don't know. Anybody else? Have you ever snorkeled out there? Has anybody else ever seen or found the pilings from this old pier? Hey, if you have, leave me a comment. But I'm still thinking, there's still that block with the blue paint. So cool. Thanks for watching.